Well, welcome everyone again to this first part of 3 parts on the rays. Um, and I think this will give us a comprehensive foundation for studying much of the other ageless wisdom teachings. The 7 rays, of course, relate to the septenaries in everything, the 7 chakras, the 7 root races, and so forth. And it's quite a big topic, and it's really foundational, so I'm glad that we're doing it at the beginning of the course. And we can really get an idea of the emanation, the rays, from where the rays emanate. They emanate from way outside the solar system. And to get an idea of the vastness of the universe, this is a famous picture from the Hubble telescope about 20 years ago, I think, of 1 square inch of sky focused in the constellation of Virgo. And these aren't stars that we can see. They're actually galaxies, multitude of galaxies that we can't normally see with even telescopes. And so that's just one tiny fraction of the night sky. And so if we look at one galaxy, such as our Milky Way galaxy here, we see that our sun, our solar system, is one speck of light within this one galaxy. And we have a solar system of planets as well. So it's kind of quite sobering to see our tiny place within the universe. And yet we are evolving lives as all the other stars and galaxies are. And this gets towards the origin of the 7 rays. We looked before the meditation at our tiny little place within the greater scheme of things. And so we proceed, as is the occult way, from above down, as above, so below. And we have the solar system, not an accurate portrayal, of course, but what we see here are all the planets, the sun, the Earth, the third rock from the sun, as it's called, and the moon, just over here, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and of course there are a few trans-Neptunians as well. And of course we have the asteroid belt here, the remnants of another planet. All very important forces in our solar system that affect us. So the 7 rays is, esoteric astrology, I should say, is the study of the 7 rays. They can be studied separate or together, and I try and integrate both of them in my work, in my writings, and so forth. But the study of the rays by itself is called esoteric psychology, and one doesn't need to know astrology necessarily just to study the rays on their own, because there's sufficient material there to make it a science in itself. It is essentially a sub-science of esoteric astrology, because astrology, or esoteric astrology, is known as the science of all sciences, which is a pretty big statement that the Tibetan makes. So our solar system is part of a greater corporate being, as I might have said in one of my introduction talks, and the so-called grand heavenly being, or the one about whom naught may be said, which includes various constellations such as the Great Bear, Sirius, the Pleiades, which have been theoretically assigned as different chakras within that greater body. The Great Bear, for instance, the head center, Sirius, the Ajna center, the throat center, the Pleiades, the heart center, our solar system, Orion, solar plexus, Antares in the heart of the Scorpion as the sacral, and Draco as the base of the spine. We take some of these from hints in the teachings because it hasn't really been spelt out completely. We've tried to fill in the gaps over the years, myself and various other students. And this is not a bad working structure that we have at the moment. And of course, it's also based upon the rays. The first ray corresponds to the head center, the third ray to the throat center, and so forth. But there are always exceptions. So it's we move on to the next diagram, which represents the main conditioning triangle of esoteric astrology, we're told, which has the Great Bear constellation at the first ray or first aspect, as we call it, point of the triangle. Sirius, or the Sirian system, at the second point, the love-wisdom point, and the Pleiades at the third point. The seven stars, the Pleiades, or the seven wives, if you like, of the seven rishis of the Great Bear. Their unification, if you like, produces the sun, or the SON sun, as in mother, father, son, of Sirius, but not necessarily astronomically, symbolically more so. So we have the three main rays: the first ray of love, of willpower, the second ray of love wisdom, the third ray of active intelligence, associated very specifically with these three constellations. And they are this is the conditioning triangle from where all the rays emanate. And what I mean by that is that these seven solar systems that are continually evolving and putting out energy are actually the source of the seven ray energies. And therefore, this triangle steps down, or synthesizes, if you like, those seven forces from the seven solar systems, and is the main broadcasting triangle from where the rays emanate and go into our solar system and condition our Earth. So there are various diagrams as well, which I won't linger on too long, that show the 12 constellations, which are distinct from the 12 signs of the zodiac. This is something that confuses beginners. The signs are the lenses which focus the constellational energies through them. And we can see our solar system down here with the sun and the planets circulating around it. That's one way to look at it. These are just symbolic representations, so not too literal. And also we know that the constellational zodiac doesn't align with the sign zodiac. And that's another whole story which we can't really go into today. And some more symbolic diagrams. On the left, we have the seven stars, or the seven rays, if you like, transmitting through the different signs of the zodiac. They have been given very specifically of what rays come through what signs. Some rays come through 2 or 3 signs, other rays just 1 sign. And we have the symbolic zodiac up here in the sky, but again, this is not, this is just a symbolic representation of the zodiac, not necessarily its physical place. And then we have the gateway of the sun, through which all these zodiacal and ray forces are transmitted through to the 7 so-called sacred planets, and the 5, including our Earth, non-sacred planets. And the difference between those is essentially that the non-sacred planets have not evolved to the point of becoming sacred or perfected, or of going through certain initiations on their own level, just as we go through initiations on our much lesser level. So the planets are the vehicles or the transmitters of the rays, and that's why we have planets that rule the rays. Just as planets rule the signs, they also rule the rays, they also rule the chakras. And I try and bring this 3-way relationship of rays ruling chakras, signs, and rays in my various writings that you can find for the last 20 years on my website and in my books, of course. On the right here, we have another representation of the zodiac. This is called the celestial sphere. It's just a 2-dimensional construct to relay a kind of more 4th dimensional information. So we have the sun, out here, and Venus and Mercury circulating around the sun, and we have the Earth here, the third planet from the sun, and the sun transmitting its energy as well, not to mention the rays, through the zodiac signs. So it's a very we have a very mystical understanding, really, of how the zodiac works. As we go into the age of Aquarius, the sign of esoteric and exoteric science, we're going to be able to break it down far more. But as I might have mentioned in the past, the zodiac signs are actually living beings that are composed of groups of angelic beings, if you like, for want of a better description. That's the short answer. And so we have another representation of the zodiac again, and this white line that goes through the middle is the ecliptic. Okay, the imaginary path of the sun as it appears to move around the Earth. Of course, we know it's the other way around, but nonetheless, this is part of the illusion of the zodiac and our place in space. And here we have a great representation of the magnetic fields that surround the Earth as they pour through the North Pole and emanate from the South Pole. The North Pole is known as the mountain. The South Pole is the pit. One has a positive charge and just like a battery, and the South Pole a negative charge. And these energies circulate constantly. Like the torus, the TORUS symbol that most of you may be familiar with, a very organic symbol showing energies circulating, and this is almost a torus, in fact, this diagram. It's like a cutaway torus. My theory is that the zodiac signs actually do reside around the North Pole. These groups of beings that live in the etheric body of the planet. But that's a story for another day. Just to give you a taste of that for now. Okay, just checking the comments. So here we have a somewhat detailed diagram from Esoteric Astrology by Alice Bailey. And I'm going to go through and describe what it means. You can see these funnels that are funneling energy from the higher to the lower. And so these 7 circles at the top represent the 7 rays. And they pour through the 3 major planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity. And of course, we have the Lord of the World here who presides at Shambhala, the Lord of the World called Sanakamara that we discussed in previous classes, and how this cone, if you like, this inverted cone, represents the way of higher evolution and its 7 paths. Those 7 paths are the 7 cosmic paths that lead any of us, once we achieve liberation, to choose another cosmic path to go beyond this solar system altogether. Or we can choose the Earth path, the path of Earth service. We have the various initiations here, the 6th initiation of the Christ, the 5th initiation of a Master of Wisdom corresponding to this cone, and as we go down to the next cone, we have the lesser initiations, the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st initiation, which a lot of people on the planet are taking today in terms of waking up. And of course, smaller groups are taking the 2nd and 3rd initiation and so forth. This is humanity, who represents the mother aspect, as we call it, the mother matter, active intelligence, the 3rd ray. The hierarchy embodies soul consciousness, love, wisdom, the 2nd ray of love, wisdom. Of course, Shambhala, the father, the monad, represents will or power. Right down here in the bottom uh, cone or flask, we have animal, so-called animal man. And so between this level of animal man and the initiate, we have thinking humanity. We have varying degrees of humanity at different levels of evolution. So the 7 rays pour through these 3 flasks and condition every kingdom in nature. The animal kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the mineral kingdom, as we'll see as we work through some of these septenaries. And of course the human kingdom. We all have a soul ray, personality ray, a mental body ray, an astral body ray, a physical body ray. And we have sub-rays of those rays as well, which is really getting into a lot of detail. One of the key factors, if you're studying the rays, and there's a lot of material and tabulations on my website you can find, and book references and so forth, is to try and ascertain at first the ray of your personality and soul, those 2 rays. When you become more familiar with the other rays, you can you can study them all together actually. You can try a ray on for a month, for instance. You can go, I wonder if I'm a 6-ray astral body. You look at all the qualities of the astral body and you observe yourself for a month to see if you would fit the bill, so to speak, or the criteria to be a 6-ray emotional body, or a 3rd-ray physical body, or a 1st-ray mental body, for instance. It can take a while to figure out. Many of us have been studying the rays for 30 or 40 years, are still not 100% certain of our rays. We all wish that they'd pop down the tube, the flasks, if you like, and like the lotto bowls on Thursday night, and and we find we have, we know our rays, but this is a deliberate process in terms of doing the concrete sort of study on the rays and then intuitively reflecting upon them to really get them. I know that various schools and systems give their students their ray structure, and quite often when you ask these students, oh, well, why do you think you're this or that ray, they don't they haven't studied the rays and they can't give an explanation. So it's quite a science in itself, and of course a psychological system. It's the new psychology in many ways. Here is just one representation of one ray going through 3 signs and being distributed by the various planets. The first ray from one star in the Great Bear constellation, or Ursa Major. And the first ray is known to pass through or transmit through these 3 signs, Capricorn, Leo, and Aries. In fact, as I said before, the rays transmit through all the signs, or combinations of the signs, and have a stronger expression in one particular cycle or another. I think the first ray finds its strongest expression through Aries at the moment, as I recall. And so we have the first ray coming through the transcending level from the Great Bear, through the transmitting level of the 3 constellations, and often when DK uses the word constellation, he's actually referring to a sign and vice versa. So it really tests your intuition, because you cannot read these books with the concrete mind. You really need to meditate and develop the intuition to assist you with really penetrating into the arcana. So we reach the level of transforming through the gateway of the sun, and then the redistribution or transmission or transformation of those ray energies to the various planets which carry the first ray. And so we have the 7 sacred planets, the 4 non-sacred planets, of course. And we have various planets that rule the first ray, Vulcan and Pluto, for instance. The grayed out planets, I think, not sure what that's, no, it's all right. Ignore what I'm saying there. So this is the transfiguring level, and you can see that then these ray energies and planetary energies and zodiacal energies reach the Earth. These 3 magnetic patterns. The rays are a magnetic frequency. The zodiac signs are a magnetic frequency. The planets are magnetic frequencies. And the planets and signs and rays all have certain affinities with each other. For instance, Mercury, as the ruler of the 4th ray of harmony through conflict, has a deep affinity with that ray. Jupiter, as the ruler of the 2nd ray of love wisdom, also, and likewise. But various planets can transmit 2 or 3 different rays as well. Shana asked, is the first initiation in correlation to the veil of forgetting? I'm not quite familiar with that term. It could be, but I can't really answer that question right now. No, the grayed out planets are not the sacred planets. So just ignore that for now. All right, so we have a couple more beautiful paintings of some ray representations from a book on the 7 rays by a woman called Helen Burmeister. I have some of her paintings on my website and in my newsletters that you can download. Up here in this left-hand painting, we have the first ray depicted in red in this triangle, the 2nd ray blue, of course, and the 3rd ray green. These are called the 3 main rays of aspect, from which the other 4 rays emanate, particularly from the mother ray, the 3rd ray. It gives birth, if you like, to the 4 other rays. The 4th ray of harmony through conflict, the 5th ray of science or knowledge, the 6th ray of devotion and idealism, the 7th ray of ceremonial order or magic or organization. So this is an important thing to remember. The 3 gives birth to the 7 or to the other 4. But all the rays really, because this is a so-called 2nd ray solar system, all the 7 rays are sub-rays of the 2nd ray in many ways. So another little detail to bear in mind there. But this is pretty essential kind of construction. And again, over here on this diagram, we just have the 3 rays of aspect, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rays. And a very, crude diagram in some ways of their transmission into this solar system. Of course, we know that the Earth has planetary centers. We have Shambhala, hierarchy and humanity, and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rays correspond with those. But we have the 5 major planetary inlets, such as New York City, Geneva, Tokyo, and so forth, that are all ruled by astrological and rays. And so there'll be certain affinities of these broadcast rays at every full moon, depending on what sign of the zodiac we're in, of one ray being stronger than another and finding a stronger expression through one of those 5 planetary chakras. Okay, so we get to our first table, and these have all been colored according to the rays. Bearing in mind that these are some of the main colors associated with the rays, we could go into 6 harmonic colors of each ray, as is the way with all septenaries. They have, there's another 7 harmonics associated with each one. or 6 harmonics, making 7 harmonics or subharmonics. But the first ray is generally regarded as being red or white. Virtues, strength, courage, steadfast, truth, fearless, trustworthy, large-minded. Vices, ruthless, hard, cold, proud, arrogant, ambitious, tyrannical, cruel, controlling. Now, in some of these keywords, we can see astrological signs, can we not? Leo and Capricorn come to mind, for instance. Strength and courage of Leo, but also the arrogance of Leo, or the ambition of Capricorn, which is the first ray sign. So the great revelation of the 7-ray information that's been given to us really fleshes out our understanding of the zodiac signs hitherto unknown or hitherto unconnected. So a good way to go through and determine the rays in yourself is to find these tables on my website under the heading on the menu of esoteric astrology, and go through and answer for yourself as truthfully as you can what negative and positive traits apply to you. Make a list of them. And then look at the signs of the zodiac that you have that also exhibit those traits, and the signs that don't exhibit those traits. So, second ray of love wisdom, the indigo blue ray, virtues, calm, strength, endurance, patience, love of truth, intuition, serenity. Vices, coldness, indifference, self-pity, fear, love of being loved, personal wisdom. And what we have listed is some of in all the positive and negative traits are the so-called glamours of the rays, which we'll go through later. The glamour being the title of a book, The Glamour World Problem, and to do with illusion on the astral plane, which is the main crucible that many people on the spiritual path are walking through in their journey to the second degree initiation. And so we have the third ray of active intelligence, virtues, wide abstract views, sincerity, clarity of intellect, patience, caution, planning. Vices, intellectual pride, devious, scheming, inaccuracy, obstinacy, critical, busyness. We live in a very third ray world at the moment. The third ray is in a particular cycle within a cycle within a cycle of the third ray. So it represents the incredible ramification of technology, manufacturing, and so forth, and computers, and a lot of these qualities can be applied to some of the leading people in the tech industries, which I've gone into in quite a bit of detail in my newsletters. For instance, people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and so forth. Likewise, the fifth ray goes quite strongly with the third ray, as we'll discover in a minute. And just to mention that we have an odd ray line and we have an even ray line. So the 1, 3, 5, 7 line is more to do with the will, which finds its expression through the mind. Okay? Whereas the 2, 4, 6 line is the love line, the love wisdom line. 2, 4, 6, which finds its expression through the emotions and the heart. And so for all of our rounded out development, we need to obviously synthesize qualities of both the odd ray line and the even ray lines. We're all a mixture of these rays. The first 3 rays here are strong in my makeup, for instance. The 6th and 7th ray as well. Also, you can change a ray during a lifetime or in between lifetimes, but we keep the same soul ray for many, many lifetimes. We only change once in our whole evolution as spiritual beings, the soul ray, and that's when we go from a ray of attribute, one of the 4, 5, 6, or 7, onto a ray of aspect, 1, 2, or 3, which happens at a certain stage of the spiritual path. And so a 7th ray soul, for instance, may go to a 1st ray in line with that odd ray line, whereas the 6th ray soul might go to the 2nd ray, and so forth. The 4th ray of harmony through conflict is the major ray that rules humanity as a whole. And so we reach harmony at various stages of an incarnation or over a period of incarnation through conflicts, through the higher frequencies being contacted and coming in contact with the status quo that we're holding, the lower frequency, creating conflict within ourselves that we harmonize. It might take us a whole lifetime to harmonize, or we may go through several harmonizations in one life. That's why it's called the ray of harmony through conflict. Also called the ray of art, beauty, and music. Of course, this is very important, music being the universal language. So the 4th ray virtues: affectionate, sympathetic, courageous, devotion, generosity, quick intellect. This is the mercurial intellect. Mercury, remember, is one of the rulers of the 4th ray. Vices: a warrior, inaccuracy, self-centeredness, cowardice, extravagance, mood swings. So we can see the pairs of opposites here: courage and cowardice, for instance. Generosity versus extravagance. Mood swings is very much to do with the moon rulership of the 4th ray, or co-rulership of the 4th ray, the moody moon. So the 1st ray is ruled by Vulcan and Pluto. Vulcan, the smithy. The 2nd ray, Jupiter and the Sun. The 3rd ray, Saturn, the Lord of Karma, and our Earth itself. People forget that the Earth is just as relevant a body in the solar system as all the other planets. 4th ray, Mercury and the Moon. The 5th ray, interestingly enough, only one planet, and that's Venus, that we usually regard as the goddess of love, sex, beauty, art, and she is, but at a higher level, she's more to do with the mind. So the virtues of perseverance, common sense, accuracy, rational, uprightness, keen intellect, the vices of narrowness, harsh criticism, lack of sympathy, arrogant, proud, prejudiced, cold. Again, we can link these keywords with various astrological signs. For instance, the 5th ray finds one of its paths through Leo, and we have the arrogant, proud factor of Leo coming in here, for instance. So Venus is the only ruler of the 5th ray, and its energy is on the mental plane. Venus is actually the highest self of this planet, of our Earth, and just as Sirius is the highest self to this solar system. And its expression changes, however, when it moves from the mental plane to the astral plane. So what you have with exoteric astrology is a more astral interpretation of the energy of Venus, which is most appropriate and very accurate, of course, because most of humanity are astrally polarized. We're all becoming mentally polarized as we move forward in our evolution. And so we have the 6th ray of devotion and idealism. By the way, I did mention before that the rays have cycles. So the 4th ray is actually out of incarnation, as they call it at the moment, but is coming in 2025. And when it does slowly move into incarnation after 2025, we're told the new forms of art and music in the next century will start to make themselves felt. These things were completely yet out of our scope of consciousness or understanding. The 5th ray came into a short incarnation for a couple of 100 years, which actually helped to, fuel the Industrial Revolution. in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. And as I said before, it works very closely with the third ray of active intelligence. It's the combination of third and fifth rays that brought all our various industrial and technological revolutions. So the sixth ray is going out of incarnation since we're told 1625. But because it was the incarnation for so long before that, its energies are going to be felt for a long time yet. It mainly corresponded with the age of Pisces, and the sixth ray passes through Pisces along with the second ray of love wisdom. So with the combination of Pisces and the sixth ray, it really magnified both the positive and negative attributes of the sixth ray. So we have devotion, single-mindedness, tenderness, intuitive, loyal, reverence, loving, vices, selfish, jealous, sentimental, deceptive, fiery anger, narrow, sectarian, fanatical. And we are seeing some of the worst aspects of this fanaticism of the sixth ray in many fields of human experience, not just religion, whether it be Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, or Hindu, but in many fields of human expression, in politics, in the sciences. And have fanatical scientists who have well-developed minds, scientists I should say, who have well-developed minds, but not necessarily a discrimination that is free of emotional taints. So the seventh ray of ceremonial order or magic is coming into incarnation, and that's why the Earth is literally at sixes and sevens with itself. We have the sixth ray outgoing and the seventh ray incoming, and many people are still focused on the sixth ray. We have many devotional religions still strong, Catholicism, Protestants, the Buddhists, are all very devotional religions. The seventh ray virtues are strength, perseverance, courage, courtesy, detailed, self-reliance, practical. You can see some of these traits, strength and perseverance, of the first ray. And the seventh ray does have a connection to the first ray. The first ray in some ways represents spirit, and the seventh ray in some ways represents matter, the manifestation of spirit into matter. And of course, there's the 1, 3, 5, 7 connection as well on the will line of energies. Vices for the seventh ray: formalism, bigotry, pride, opinionated, superficial judgments, narrowness. You'll note that courtesy is one of the greatest attributes of the seventh ray. It comes from the word court. And if you think about the rituals of the European courts in the last few centuries, they have and in fact the curtsy, to curtsy before another person or a king or a queen is related to courtesy as well. Courtier, all those kind of words. But we're also seeing the shadow of the seventh ray as we go into the Aquarian age, which will correspond quite well with the Aquarian age, just as the sixth ray corresponded to the Piscean age, because the seventh ray is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. The fifth ray is the only ray to come through Aquarius, by the way, just as it is Leo. But what we're seeing with the seventh ray at the moment is this formalism and this, what's the word I'm looking for? This kind of organizing people into kind of robotic sort of groups that are all the same, that I can't think of the exact word right now. Anyway, I think you might get what I mean. That is one of the shadows of the seventh ray. And I guess also you have the assembly line of mass manufacturing is a very seventh ray thing of using the seventh ray of organization to, and also of course the law of economy, which is very much associated with the third ray, to get the most out of the materials that you're manufacturing and get them assembled in the quickest time possible, as of course Henry Ford revolutionized with his making of the Ford motor cars and the assembly line. And he may have had the seventh ray strong in his makeup as well. I believe also he studied theosophy. Anyway, which planet rules the sixth ray? Someone asked, Alan, Neptune and Mars. And Neptune and Mars are also the ruler of the solar plexus chakra, which is the seat of the emotional body. So we can see that the connection between the sixth ray and the astral body, because the sixth ray is the most common astral body that humanity has, just as the fourth ray is the most common mental body for humanity. Someone said, Daniel suggested mechanical or automaton. Now that wasn't exactly the word, but it's close. Painting everything in beige, if you like. Still not the right word. It'll come to me. I'll probably wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, yes, that's it, eureka. And one of the great ways of looking at the rays is the occupations associated with the rays. So ray 1, will or power, we have politicians, leaders, explorers, executives, managers, dictators, occultists. Now, you might remember when we looked at the masters that the Master Moya is the Shohan or custodian of the first ray of will or power. And part of his job is to inspire politicians and leaders and executives, to impress upon them ideas that will stimulate them into working within their chosen field. You'll notice also that the first ray comes through the sign of Leo and Aries, which are both signs of leadership. So you've got the leaders, explorers, executives, the trailblazers, the dictators. Hitler had the first ray obviously very strong, but so did Churchill, his adversary. And occultists, the first ray, because the first ray is a synthesizing ray. The Master Moya actually presides over all the occult schools. He's one of the key masters who presides over occultism. And yet he works closely with the Master Kutumi, who is the Shohan of the second ray of love wisdom. So we have teachers, healers, sages, servers, scholars, humanists, philanthropists. And we remember that the second ray is ruled by Jupiter and the Sun. So philanthropy is a very Jupiterian, generous Jupiter type of occupation. The sage, the sages of the ages. I was looking at one today. You've probably seen him on YouTube or something. Sadhguru, very interesting guy. He dispenses information and knowledge and wisdom, and he looks like the classic guru with the white beard and the robes and so forth. But he's also quite a regular guy too. But interestingly enough, he calls himself the last of the gurus, which is interesting because the gurus were really very much part of the devotional age of the age of Pisces, and it's up to us to be our own gurus now. In fact, the soul is the guru. So we have the second ray of love wisdom, the indigo blue ray. We have the third ray of active intelligence, which is associated with the Shohan called the Venetian, who was once Paolo Veronese in Italy. We have philosophers, organizers, astrologers, mathematicians, economists, historians, business people. You can see the third ray is strong in myself. I regard myself as a philosopher that happens to do astrology and is an historian as well. And I have to run a business too. So it's strong in me maybe in a couple of my vehicles. You can have two or three vehicles influenced by the same ray. The Greek philosophers are a classic expression of the third ray. The third ray is a ramifying ray. It's able to go in many different directions and bring from disparate sources back into a synthesis. Organizers. So we have a similar quality to the seventh ray. There are a lot of similarities between the third ray and the seventh ray, the ray of organization. And Saturn and the Earth are the rulers of the third ray. I've got 4 questions here in the chat. I'll just stop for a moment to have a look. Okay, I think that was answered.
Philip, they are answered. The one that is not is
yes,
is asking if you can speak a bit
yes.
about what. Yes, read it.
I did mention this before, very briefly. The non-sacred planets are ones that haven't reached their point of perfection of evolution, including our Earth, Mars, Pluto. So Venus, Neptune, Jupiter, and so forth have reached that point, and hence the importance of Venus being the higher self to our planet, a sister planet, as it were. How can Mars, for example, evolve into sacred status? Well, it will take many, many years. When we look at the cycles of evolution, the Kali, all the different yugas and so forth, millions, if not billions of years. Information and hints has been given in the various books by the Tibetan, particularly a treatise on cosmic fire. So all the planets will reach eventually their point of evolution and sacredness, so to speak. And so the Earth, with its human kingdom, reaching a point of perfection over many millions of years too, will enable the logos of this planet to take initiation and thereby become a sacred planet. And Hughes says here from a quote in Historic Astrology, but the reason which makes a planet a sacred or not is one of the secrets of a certain major initiation. And I may not further elucidate here. Indeed. So where was I? Coming back to the third ray. Astrologers, of course, very influenced by the third ray, mathematicians, economists. The third ray is the law of economy, as I mentioned before. There are different laws associated with all the rays, but particularly the first 3 rays. The law of sacrifice, for instance, for the first ray. Ray 4, harmony through conflict, artists, mediators, architects, poets, psychologists, musicians. And as the 4th ray is coming into incarnation, again very soon, we're going to see, as I said, new art, new architecture perhaps, new music, a revival of poetry, I hope. And psychologists quite often have the 4th ray in their makeup, which is appropriate because they're dealing with humanity in general, all sorts of different clients. They have to be able to relate in that respect. Ray 5, science. Scientists, obviously, researchers, alchemists, engineers, analysts, inventors. So the science has really advanced in the last several centuries, taken huge leaps. And yet it also has been abused and misused, the misuse of the mind, the misuse of the scientific powers that of the things that science has invented. All things can be used or abused, and we are in a phase as we just before we go into the Aquarian age, where the fifth ray will be expressing quite strongly for a couple of thousand years, just through its passage through Aquarius, where the imbalance that is currently expressing itself must be rectified. So it has to do with the lower concrete mind. But of course, there are many scientists that are super intuitive. Take Einstein, for instance, and many others who concentrate so hard on the problem at hand that they get given, the intuition comes in and gives them the answers, either in their dreams at night time and so forth, or during waking consciousness. So Venus, the ruler of the fifth ray, and of course this ray is ruled by Master Hilarion, or is the Shohan of this ray, as the Master Serapist is the Shohan of the fourth ray. The Kohan or Chohan of the sixth ray, of course, is Master Jesus, ray of devotion and idealism, and therefore it rules ministers, mystics, missionaries, devotees, orators, crusaders, zealots. I think a lot of us have somewhat of the sixth ray in us, particularly as it's the most common astral body ray. But just in terms of the fact that much of the world is influenced by the sixth rays still. Russia and USA both have sixth ray personalities. Italy and Spain have the sixth ray in their makeup as well. So we see the passion of the sixth ray, the minister at the pulpit delivering his oratory, his fiery oratory. Billy Graham, for instance, up there at the pulpit. The mystic in search of the mystical Shambhala beyond the Himalayas. Missionaries who go and try and convert, developing countries into their way of seeing God, and so forth. Zealots, religious zealots. But of course, zealotry can be in any field of human activity. And because the sixth ray is so emotional, ruled by Mars, again, Mars and Neptune, the rulers of the solar plexus, again, we see this fanatical adherence, emotional adherence to ideas. That's what creates the fanatic or the zealot. Ray 7, we don't know the master who's the Chohan of this. The Master R or Count Saint Germain used to be the Chohan of the seventh ray, custodian of this ray. And so we have the builders. We have builders with the second ray too. Administrators, who are really essentially organizers, designers, revolutionaries, magicians. And so we can see certain rays work very well with each other. For instance, the fourth ray, harmony through conflict for architects, goes well with ray 7 designers. And we have that American architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, is a good example of fourth and seventh rays working together, and the many beautiful buildings that he designed. Revolutionaries. So how is the revolutionary on the seventh ray? Well, we think of the planet Uranus, the revolutionary, the ruler of the seventh ray. And likewise, magicians. It is, after all, the ray of ceremonial order or magic, the manifestation of spirit into matter, which can be done through magical ritual or solemn ritual in a church or in a Masonic lodge, or just a group of people out in the desert, creating their own ritual and invoking spirit into matter. So we're going to see a lot more of Ray 7 in the next 2,000 years as its cycle increases, its major cycle, which started around about 1945, and will take about 2,500 years to run, I believe. A couple of questions here. What about athletes and sportsmen? Says Ciro, or Chiro, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. What about them? They, in terms of rays, we have some sports people who have got incredible perseverance and stamina. And of course, this brings in the astrology. Some tennis players like Andre Agassi, for instance, strong Taurus, which has the first ray associated with it. The marathon runner who might have strong Capricorn Aries in their horoscopes. You can find several explanations for rays and signs in athletes' charts. Gemini is great for boxers who dance around. Muhammad Ali was a Capricorn, but I think he had Gemini quite strong there some way. Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee was his mantra. So there have been statistical studies done on sports people through the signs of the zodiac by the French statistician Michel Gauquelin. Rachel says, are some rays considered to be more evolved than others? No. Do you progress through the rays sequentially with the first being considered less evolved than the seventh? No. Or are they all considered equal and you need to try and master each of them? Yes. And as I said before, the rays of attribute, the four latter rays, in terms of the soul ray, one eventually moves to the synthesizing three rays of aspect at some point where there's a switch that's made in one life or another. So we have here the rays, the chakras, the colors, the jewels, the planets. It's quite a profound, condensed piece of information here. The crown chakra, of course, 1,000-petal lotus associated with the first ray of will or power. Red, the color, diamond, the gem, Vulcan, Pluto, the planets ruling. The bolded planet is the so-called sacred planetary ruler of each of these rays, okay? The unbolded planet is the non-sacred co-ruler of that ray. And I've given Vulcan as the esoteric ruler of Taurus here, and of course Pluto is the exoteric ruler of Scorpio, esoteric ruler of Pisces. So you can see what a fairly complex science it can be if you choose to go deeper. There are many interrelationships that you can find. You can have a certain ray in your makeup, but even if you didn't, you might have a certain sign that allows you to invoke that ray, even though that ray is not in your makeup. So likewise, we have ray 2, the heart, indigo blue, and there are many different forms of indigo that you can find. I've found about 4 or 5 different forms of what people consider indigo, and they're very different. Basically, the color of the night sky, like indigo ink, I see it as. Sapphire is the gem associated with ray 2, and it's interesting that sapphires are quite prolific in Kashmir. Kashmir being the origin of the Master Kutumi, who was the Chohan of the second ray of love wisdom. Jupiter, of course, rules Sagittarius, Pisces, the esoteric ruler of Aquarius. Sun rules Leo. Ray 3, the throat chakra, the seat or doorway of the mental body, ruled by Saturn, of course. Most appropriate, Saturn ruling Capricorn. And of course, the third ray of active intelligence, or the humanity, is regarded as the throat center of the planet, where we have the karmic free will from Saturn to determine our destiny. Green, emerald is the jewel, so forth. Ray 4, we have, well, one assignation is the base chakra, but in my book I talk about how it relates also to the Ajna center. Yellow, bright yellow, is the classic color for the fourth ray. Jasper, the gem. Mercury, the esoteric ruler, and the moon, of course. I'm not going to go through all the astrology signs here. It'll just be information overload. Fifth ray, Ajna center, orange, topaz, Venus. The sixth ray, abstract idealism or devotion. Solar plexus, of course. Light blue or sky blue. The ruby. Red, of course, is the color of passion and emotion too. And of Mars, which is the ruler, co-ruler of the sixth ray, hence ruby. And of course, Neptune, the esoteric ruler. Ray 7, sacral center. And it's interesting to note that Uranus, the ruler of the seventh ray, also rules the sacral center, the sexual chakra. Hence the one of the shadows of the seventh ray being sex magic. We have violet or amethyst as the color, and of course Uranus, the ruler. Can I say something re-Vulcan? Yes, well, Vulcan is so close to the sun that it can't be really seen that easily. There have been many sightings of Vulcan since the 1800s, in fact, documented by Navy ships, astronomers, amateur skygazers, and so forth. And it's hidden behind it's like an intra-mercurial orbit, so it's hidden between Mercury and the Sun, very hard to see. I suspect it's a very dense planet, almost like a crystal, and it reflects a hell of a lot of light from the Sun. It's the most illuminating planet. Of course, Mercury is about illumination. Nicole says, where does the pink ray fall? Well, in other sort of systems of the rays that go through the 12 rays, for instance, you could say the pink ray is associated with the sixth ray. That's the short answer. So we move on to the gems themselves. The study of gemology is a fascinating study, especially for seventh ray types, because the seventh ray relates to the seventh plane, the physical plane of that which you can dig out of the earth. And they all have different chemical compounds and variations, of course. There are many variations of diamonds and sapphires and all these gems. We have the first ray diamond, we have the second ray sapphire, we have the third ray emerald, we have the fourth ray jasper, we have the fifth ray topaz, we have the sixth ray ruby, and the seventh ray amethyst. Violet also is another color for the seventh ray, of course, being the color of amethyst. And so what sort of jewelry or gems do you gravitate towards may indicate something in your ray makeup. Not necessarily, of course, but that's something to consider when you're trying to figure out your rays. And here we have a chakra diagram, chakra man, with the 7 centers and the rulerships, Vulcan or Uranus at a higher level. You'll notice that Uranus is down here for the sacral center, as I was saying before. When you look at the Hindu depictions of the chakras, which are the most esoteric, such as Arthur Avalon's book on the chakras, you will see the moon depicted here in the sacral center, because the moon is about reproduction, is it not? Biological reproduction. But it veils the planet Uranus in this respect. We see Jupiter and the Sun ruling the heart, Saturn and the Earth ruling the throat chakra, Venus or Mercury ruling the Ajna center. Did I say Neptune, Mars, the solar plexus? I think I did. Pluto, the base chakra. Pluto, the lord of the underworld. And this base chakra is vitalized eventually. It's where it resides the Kundalini, the serpent, coiled serpent of Kundalini, that eventually rises to the crown chakra over many, many lifetimes. So appropriately, Pluto is the ruler of the base chakra. Okay, so this diagram you're familiar with, the 7 planes of perception, which we've given to you in an email, I think, in one of the first classes. We're going to create a collection of all these diagrams on our web pages, and so we'll keep adding to that over the weeks as a resource for you all to go in and download them and print them out for yourself. And the rays, of course, correspond to these 7 planes, the 7 planes from 1 to 7. And even the 7 subplanes of each plane correspond to the rays as well. So at the physical plane, the 7th ray, the emotional plane, the 6th ray, and so forth. They're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will become clearer to you as you proceed in your studies. Okay, we've got a bit of time left to go through some more. We've got a couple more weeks yet to study the rest of the rays, particularly the various personalities, famous personalities in history. So here we have another type A and type B of the rays. All the rays are dual. So we have type A, who is persistent in the first ray, never gives in, depended upon by others. Type B destroys that which prevents free expression of the life force. So we can see the Vulcan-Pluto rulerships of the first ray here. Type B, particularly in type B, the destroyer, Pluto the destroyer, that prevents the free expression of life force. Ray 2, type A, magnetic, radiant, sharing, compassionate, empathetic. Type B has an emphasis on wisdom, not knowledge, and is dispassionate. Type A is more about love. Type B is more about wisdom. Ray 3, type A, the philosopher, the theorist, the emphasis on abstract ideas. Michael Robbins, our dearly departed brother, was a great philosopher in terms of abstract ideas and wrote some deeply philosophical treatises that are very thought-provoking. Type B, businesslike, practical, manipulator, gamesmanship. We have a lot of third-rate types like that, of course, on the planet, in greater numbers than type A. After all, the third ray is the ray of humanity as a whole. So, ray 4, type A, brings harmony from conflict, is the mediator. There you have Mercury, the mediator. Type B, colorful, strong contrast, artistic, volatile, forceful. The lead singer of a rock and roll band. There you have your 4th ray, type B. Ray 5, type A, the researcher, the intellectual, accuracy, clarity. Type B, the technician, practical in applications. Ray 5 has this clarity. And the signs of the zodiac associated with Ray 5 bring that clarity too. For instance, the Leo, again, we have the will to illumine, the will to knowledge and thereby illumine. Ray 6, type A, receptive, passive, loyal, tranquil, worshipful, gentle. This is Neptune, the esoteric ruler of this ray. Type B, of course, we have Mars, fiery zeal, strives towards ideals, aspires, aggressive. Then we have ray 7, type A, highly organized, plays by the rules, meticulous in action. Type B, emphasis on the creative process, manifest into form. So we have kind of conservative and non-conservative expressions of the rays. So type B would be the non-conservative, type A more conservative. But of course, it's possible for a person to express both A and B of the rays. Ellie says, can I explain why there are different versions about the colors of the rays? Well, because they come from other teachings. I'm basically basing my information on the works of Alice Bailey. And so there are other channeled sort of teachings that I've looked at that don't really resonate with me and that claim 12 rays and other colors. And in a sense, nobody's wrong and everybody's right in terms of their perception. But I prefer to stick to the benchmark that I regard as the benchmark through the Tibetan's writings. So we have reached the end of the class. We've pretty much gone an hour and a half. I could go into this next section, but it would take me quite a while to go through the glamours of the rays. Perhaps we can attack this next week and answer a few more comments and questions. The glamours, though, I'd like to spend a lot more time on that, at least 10 minutes, going through all the glamours. You can see that all the glamours of the rays. And then this next week, we want to, I'd like to go into this tabulation of the 7 rays and the literary musical styles, artistic styles, and so forth. Then after that, we'll go into various personalities in history, such as I'm showing you here. And I've done profiles of a lot of these like Alice Bailey, Schweitzer, and various other personalities here. So I can add a lot more information than just, but you can see how these are the predominant rays, which were, by the way, grouped by Michael Robbins. I've taken that from Michael Robbins' Tapestry of the Gods, great book on the rays, which you can download for free off my website as a PDF. And you can buy them online as well, the actual books online. They're fairly cheap. And they've got a wealth of treasure in them about the rays. Michael was one of the foremost expounders of DK's teachings on the 7 rays. So these groupings were taken from his book on the 7 rays. And yeah, we'll go into a few of these other things next week, I think.